Yes, guys, welcome back to Flat Cap Euro Talk here, and we are going to be discussing another center back option that Spurs should probably take a look at. And because even though we're supposedly bringing in a Clement Longley by the looks of things, we still need to bring in another center back. Josko Gvardiol looks like he's not going to be available this summer, as well as Alessandro Bastoni. Who will Spurs go for? I kind of think Benoit Badiashile should be maybe brought up again. We did a video on him in the past. Welcome to check out that first one. But now with Antonio Conte through the door, I could see this guy as actually being a very smart as well as clever sort of signing for Spurs because he's very young, very talented, really strong, as well has a lot ahead of him. Really has a high ceiling, I think, for a center back. And I don't think people could deny that. So let's take a look at maybe what Benoit Badiashile could offer to Spurs. I think we've even been linked at what, at possibly bringing him in, Davinson Sanchez sort of swap deal situation. Let me know if you think of that's maybe a clever way to go about it. But I feel like maybe if you're getting rid of Davinson Sanchez, maybe have to still replace the guy. But that's, getting into something else. Let's talk about Benoit Badiashile, also on the list of great names to say in terms of players we're looking after. Born in Limoges, France, 21 years old and turns 22 next season. That shows how young he is. Left footed, by the way, is a center back, plays as, the left sided center back in a back four for Monaco. Stands at 6 feet 4 inches tall, 1.94 meters, and his youth career was over at Monaco. So he's a Monaco kid through and through. Market value £27 million, and his contract is up in 2024. This last season, he played 1,800 minutes, whereas in 2020-21, he played 2,800 minutes, which shows that maybe there might have been an injury in there. I'm not actually too sure, but that's what that would sort of suggest to me because he is definitely a regular and probably their best defender, if I'm not mistaken, at least in the team right now. If you look at all of his stats, and kind of compare them to all of the center backs across Europe's top 5 leagues, I think you actually get some interesting numbers when you look at Benoit Badiashile. And everybody, as I always say, the higher the number is when it comes to the percentile, the better he ranks in comparison to his counterparts in sort of the position that he plays in, which is the center back. So the closer that number is to 100, the better he ranks, in comparison to other center backs. So a good example then would be like his percentage of aerials won, which would be, like the ratio of aerials won versus aerials lost. And he is in the top 1%, and he is winning 78% of his aerials, nearly 80%. The guy is a monster in the air. And just to back up that, that stat, he still wins plenty of aerials. He's in the top 12% of all center backs in terms of winning aerials. He's winning close to 3.9 again, 3.9. He's around 3.86 there. That is plenty of aerials, 1 per 90. And his passing stats are actually quite decent. If you look at that one above of switches of play, he has a good ping pass on him. He is a good reader of the game. He has a really high amount of his interceptions, close to 3 a game, puts him in the 8th percentile there. Successful pressure percentage. That's kind of when you look at, when you're actually pressuring somebody, the likelihood of you winning it. So the same thing, it's like when you do pressure somebody, does it end up, still being, the other team's, ball? Do they, not lose possession? Or when you do put pressure on somebody, is there a high likelihood that they will lose the ball? Is there a high likelihood that you lead them to, them dispossessing or them getting dispossessed, excuse me. And when it comes to Badiashile, he's one of, the best in Europe when it comes to actually putting pressure on people. He's exceptionally efficient about it. When he does put pressure on you, there is a high likelihood that you will lose it. Looking at other stats, though, and comparing him to people like Ben Davies, who is certainly someone we like to always compare with because, maybe he can play left-sided center back. He could probably play in the middle as well, though, I feel like about Badiashile because he is so tall, 6 feet 4 inches, again, everybody. And when you look at, his stats compared to a Ben Davies, when it comes to like aerial win percentage and whatnot, I think we can see, how much of a more imposing center back he may be. His aerial win percentage, as we know, much higher than Ben Davies, nearly 17% higher. He's actually getting more tackles, and I believe more interceptions per game than Ben Davies as well. In terms of one-on-one situations, which is percentage of dribblers tackled. So when they are coming up against dribblers, the likelihood of them making a tackle, the likelihood of them not getting beat one-on-one, Benoit Badiashile is better there. In fact, Ben Davies, I think, has been probably consistently been kind of maybe the worst when we've compared him to most other center backs. When we're looking at, these sort of comparison videos, he seems to not be as good in the one-on-one situations because he gets dribbled past 0.78 times per 90, whereas at Benoit Badiashile only gets dribbled past 0.59 times per 90. Pressures, Ben Davies putting in a bit more, but again, when Benoit Badiashile puts in a pressure, he is actually, able to be a bit more efficient about it. Blocks, he's Badiashile is better there. Tackles and interceptions, he's a bit better there. But maybe we can look at their sort of possession stats. And again, Badiashile looking, the Monaco man looking still better in certain metrics. And what I find interesting about that is Ben Davies has sort of the benefit of being in a back three in certain, possession stats. Like he does, I think, get more opportunities to play passes into the final third. He gets more opportunities to complete progressive passes because those passes are not maybe made as long or as difficult. He gets to carry it upfield, play like a nice progressive pass that's a bit safer than, someone would normally do in a back four if they were a center back, if that logic makes any sense. So I'm actually quite surprised to see Ben Davies maybe, not dominating him in some of these. So perhaps that speaks to how good Badiashile is on the ball, or maybe I'm just kind of misjudging, the type of teams that they play for, as well as the leagues. Like we have to be honest, the leagues are a huge difference. But as you can see, certain, progressive stats and whatnot, as well as long pass completion percentage, Badiashile is, definitely better than Ben Davies in those regard, which is interesting. I thought maybe you compare him as well to, the other French or the other league center back that has just moved to the Premier League, Sven Botman, someone that we all, I think, wanted to go after at one stage. And he's actually better than Sven Botman in a lot of cases, especially aerial win percentage. I actually think Badiashile is better in the air than Sven Botman. Tackles one, he's a bit more aggressive than Sven Botman is. He's actually sort of, they're a bit even when it comes to, the one-on-one situations by the looks of things. Um, Sven Botman does make more blocks though, but Badiashile seems to be more of an aggressive center back by the looks of it, which is also interesting considering they're both around the same height, both around the similar physical build. So I would say, he is a bit more mobile and a bit more aggressive than someone like a Sven Botman. And also when it comes to, stats and possession, he's also a bit more progressive than Mr. Botman. And that's also, something to take into consideration. Sven Botman, we've all wanted to bring him in because he's super tall, super imposing, has a good pass on him, has a good ping pass. Badiashile, I think, has all those attributes as well. I just think we've just kind of weirdly maybe ignored him. So he's in a lot of metrics in a lot of ways better than Sven Botman. I haven't seen too much of them individually. I actually feel like I've seen more than Badiashile than I've actually seen of Sven Botman. Perhaps just because maybe I've been able to catch randomly maybe more Monaco games. But when it comes to Badiashile versus Botman, the big difference I think would be is that Badiashile is certainly a bit more mobile, can actually have a bit more recovery pace about him, a bit more agility as well. Whereas a Sven Botman, a bit clunkier, but very strong, very smart. So they have some distinct differences, despite having similar height and kind of similar imposing sort of nature, I would say. But if we were to compare him to probably our favorite choice, on this show or on this channel, which is Ndika, again, you kind of get some pleasant surprises. I would say, aerial win percentage a bit higher for Badiashile, but I do think Ndika does win more aerials than Badiashile does. Tackles one just barely higher. But Ndika is better in the one-on-one situations. He's better in the one-on-one situations defensively than most players in Europe, by the looks of it. Pressures, he's actually a bit higher too. Ndika, maybe that's just because he plays as a left-sided center back in the Bundesliga, which means you have to definitely be a very aggressive center back. Blocks, he's a bit higher as well. But tackles and interception, funny enough, Badiashile, slightly higher, which I think is interesting. But definitely when comparing yourself to Ndika, if you're able to beat him in certain metrics, definitely you have a player on your hands. I would say that. Looking as well, other sort of, again, the possession sort of stats better than Ndika in a lot of ways, which I think is super interesting. And Ndika, maybe when you look at his highlight package, you can see that this guy is exceptional, on the ball because there's no way he doesn't get 8 goals contributions. I think 4 goals and 4 assists, whatever it was. You have to be decent on the ball if you're getting 4 goals and 4 assists. But when it comes to actually helping his team out with progressive sort of situations and whatnot per 90, Badiashile actually contributes a bit more than Ndika does, which is interesting. He has more progressive passes, completes more passes in general, more passes into the final third, more progressive carries, better long pass completion percentage. So really, really interesting to see what Badiashile sort of would bring to this team. But I don't know, guys. I mean, is he maybe like too soon of a choice? Is he, actually a smart signing? Because I kind of want to always ask this at the end of videos now. Why would this be a smart signing, or is this a smart signing? I think it actually would be a smart signing. The reason being and the positives being left-footed. We do need another left-footed, center back in case I think they can play, either as, maybe a future replacement for Ben Davies slash if Clement Longley doesn't work out. Also, I feel like then he could play through the middle if Clement Longley is better served out wide on the left-sided center back. Badiashile can play through the middle, but in case things happen a long way or Ben Davies, he can still substitute in there. Very, very tall would be the tallest center back we have. I think we kind of haven't addressed the fact that Spurs are actually quite poor in the air. We don't really win many aerial duels. And I feel like on set pieces defensively, we're a bit vulnerable because we don't have many good, kind of dominating center backs in the air. And Badiashile would help us out a lot. He's also very good on the ball. He has very good ping pass on him, can switch play, as we just saw in a lot of those possession stats. Is actually a bit better than certain center backs that we do think are really good in possession. So I think, maybe we have to, put a bit more respect on sort of Badiashile's sort of stats. He's very strong, very tall, very strong, which are the sort of attributes that I think Conte really likes as well. Maybe some of the negatives, though, you have to bring up are that he's probably still a bit too young, like maybe still a bit unproven, really, really raw, still has a lot of development to go. The Liga to Tottenham, hasn't really gone so well in the past. Perhaps we just have to avoid it for the time being. But I don't know. Those are the negatives that I could come up with. I'm pretty sure plenty of you could come up with more. But is he a cheaper alternative, to Bastoni and Gavardiol? Yes. Is he equally as talented as Gavardiol and Bastoni? Maybe not. But I don't think that you can say he isn't untalented. He's a very, very, very talented center back with a really high ceiling. So we could look at this guy as actually being a very smart alternative because he's not really like a long lay where, he's only temporary. Like you could really actually get a lot out of this guy and maybe you wouldn't have to pay nearly as much. I know we're not all accountants, but, you could actually look at him as being an exceptionally talented center back that's just being a bit overlooked at the moment as an option for maybe Spurs. And let me know what you think about Ishile. Everybody, please like, please subscribe. I am not able to, kind of, upload any new videos while I'm going to be gone on vacation for a week. But everybody, I will be back. And once I am back, if any, new signings come through the door, I will post, some new videos about it. But I just won't be able to while I am gone on vacation. But everybody, big yourselves up. I will be seeing you. Hit that like button on your way out. Drop a super thanks if you want to support the channel. But yep, come on, you Spurs. And I will be seeing you.